Now, a lot of people on the internet mostly associate me with Pokemon, and I can't say I blame them for that. I mean, check out a lot of the videos and a lot of the live streams I've been doing lately, and, I mean, hell, even that top shelf back there, I understand that. However, I'm here to tell y'all today about one of my other video gaming passions, probably right up there with Pokemon, and that's going to be Mega Man. Now, I am a huge Mega Man fan. It's been a weirdly formative game, despite how recently I've got into the series. That's right, yeah, one of my favorite series of all time is actually something I didn't really even get into until 2018, if you could believe that. But, I mean, talk about one hell of a first impression. 2018 was the release of Mega Man 11, and I can't tell you what it is about that game necessarily that struck a chord with me, but there was just something about it that inspired me to go play through the entire series, and I'm still working on that, but I can say without a doubt that the Mega Man series has left its mark on me for sure, and is absolutely one of my favorite gaming franchises of all time, again, right up there with Pokemon. And so that's what today's video is all about. I'm going to show you guys everything I have in my Mega Man collection, and just talk about some memories. So this is going to be a bit of a lackadaisical kind of video. Might end up going a bit long. I'm really going to talk as long as I want to talk about some of this stuff. So, if it does end up being a long video, sorry, but, you know, you're more than welcome to watch it in chunks, and, you know, of course, if you have any memories with the Mega Man franchise, or any cool things in your collection that you want to talk about, please feel free to leave it down in the comments down below. But with that being said, I'm looking at this stack of things. You can't see it, it's off camera. Oh, you can kind of see it. Spoiler warning for this one, I guess, but, yeah. I've got a lot to talk about, so since this video is probably going to run pretty long, let's just go ahead and get started. And the first thing, well, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to go console by console. I'm going to start, you know, with a console, and I'm kind of going to go move through the years and show you everything going that way. And right off the bat, I'm going to start off with something completely off the wall, something super cool, and a really deep cut even for Mega Man fans. The only PC Mega Man game I own, and even some of you hardcore Mega Man fans are probably already thinking, oh, Mega Man DOS. It's not Mega Man DOS, but it's actually Making Mega Man Code Legend. Now, this is a super weird project. I think this is meant to be more of a, you know, teach like the basics of like coding and programming and stuff like that. You know, it's got a lot of, you know, if this happens, do X type of stuff going on here, but you can build your own Mega Man levels with this weird, like, motion-controlled arm cannon thing. Like, you put, like, these little Lego bricks on it, and then, like, it can make your own levels, and it's kind of teaching you about programming in that way. Super weird thing, and quite honestly, I'm not even sure how I remember hearing about this. I want to say maybe I was watching like Shadow Rock's DX Mega News series, and maybe he brought it up on there, or maybe I caught this on random Rockman Corner article. Whatever the case, they were like, oh yeah, it's releasing at like this point, it's gonna cost this much, you can only get it from like this random website, I think the Artec website, the developers. And I was like, well, I want a complete Mega Man collection, so yeah, I'm gonna go buy that. Like I said, honestly, I don't even remember how much I paid for it. Not that that really matters, but yeah, super weird product. I have not had a chance to boot this one up yet, but there was no way I could let something like this go by. And yeah, we're gonna start this off with a bang. I wanted to talk about something weird to start, and yeah, super cool. I'm definitely gonna have to give this one a shot sometime soon. Okay, but now moving on to the stuff that y'all are probably more familiar with, starting with Mega Man's, you know, console debut, or debut in general. We've got the NES Mega Man games. However, I'm only holding 5 because I am missing one. I have Mega Man 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I am missing Mega Man 1 out of all of the classic NES games. Mega Man 1 is... And I'm sorry for all the crinkling, I've got these protective covers on the cartridges to kind of help keep the pins clean. But Mega Man 1, I've had the hardest time trying to locate. Out of the classic NES series, it's not the most expensive, that honor belongs to, Mega Man 5. But it is probably the second most expensive behind Mega Man 5. At least on the NES. We'll get to we'll get to some of the other ones later, but yeah, out of the NES games, like Mega Man 1 is like second most expensive. But the difference between Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 5, I actually found this one in a store. I to this day have not seen a copy of Mega Man 1 in store. Now, there's no shortage of listings of these online, of course, but come on, where's the fun in that, right? The fun in video game collecting is, you know, going to stores, trying to find deals, you know. I'll buy a game online every now and again, but I really do try to get them from the stores as much as I can. And that being said, I'm also not really in any rush to get Mega Man 1, if I'm being perfectly honest. Mega Man 1 is not the greatest game. It is aggressively okay. A little too archaic, a little too tough for its own good. So I'm not like in a rush to get it in that sense. But I do have the other 5, 2 through 6, and I gotta be honest, hot take, for my money, the one you want to play is Mega Man 6. Mega Man 2 is fantastic, don't get me wrong, this game is incredible, and you should play it if you haven't, but out of the NES games, I think 6 is actually my favorite. It's definitely much later along in the series. I think this came out in like 91 or something. Like the Super Nintendo was definitely out when this game came out. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the later ones in the series. You could tell the developers have had their, you know, they kind of got their they kind of got the flow going with these games, and then this one is just really good, really strong. A little bit easier than the rest of these as well, which, you know, depending on who you are, is a good thing, is a bad thing, you know, whatever. But Mega Man 6, absolutely fantastic. Great music, great levels, overall a fun time. So yeah, those are the NES Mega Man games that I own. Like I said, I'm missing the first one. Looking to get it sooner rather than later, but I'm also not in a rush. So moving right along here, we're going to move into the Super Nintendo. I don't have... Actually, now I'm trying to think about it. The Super Nintendo was like weird for Mega Man. It's like you have X1 through 3, Mega Man 7, Mega Man Soccer, Mega Man and Bass if you lived in Japan, but that's about it, which actually, now that I think about it, is not as many games as I would have expected. But regardless, I do have a couple of those games. Boom! Mega Man 7. A lot of people will tell you that this game is kind of like whatever, you know, for Mega Man. People definitely don't hold this in as high regard like they do with like 2 or 3 or 9 or anything like that. I say that's a load of bull. Mega Man 7, I kid you not, is my favorite in the classic series. When it comes to just classic Mega Man, run and jump, slide, all that kind of good stuff, I'm not kidding, it really doesn't get better than Mega Man 7. Mega Man 11 comes close, it really does, but Mega Man 7 still to this day is my favorite in the classic series, which is why I felt I went out of my way to actually get a physical copy of this, outside of course, wanting to have a complete Mega Man collection. But yeah, Mega Man 7 is fantastic. It's, you know, the same classic run, jump, really fun stuff, really great levels. A lot of the weapons are actually really good, which for some Mega Man games is not always the case. Like, for example, like Mega Man 4, Mega Man 5, like, the special weapons are, like, kind of cool, but, like, not that great, in my opinion. Mega Man 7, a lot of the special weapons you get from the bosses are actually, like, amazing. And we haven't really had a Mega Man game do that, at least at this time, since 2, in my opinion. So to have a game that does that is fantastic. And I also, there's like a weird, like, Metroidvania-esque kind of element to this, where, like, levels have some levels have multiple pathways, some levels have secrets that can only be unlocked with, like, specific weapons and stuff like that. But they also cater to people that, like, kind of, that don't really care to explore by just making all those upgrades available in the shop as well, which is a really cool idea. I like that it caters to both styles of play. Like, hey, if you just want to gun through the level and then use the bolts you got to buy the upgrades that you missed for not exploring, great. But if you want to explore, save yourself the cash, get the upgrades that way, you have that option as well. Now, I did unfortunately pay a pretty penny for this, and I think the price has only gone up since I got it. I remember I got this when I was working at a retro video game store that I used to work at, and it was like this old couple that brought it in. They brought in like this and a bunch of other Super Nintendo games, This one was on top of their stack. I happened to be working at the time. Now, instantly, I'm like, what's going on over here? And they definitely didn't know what they had, because when we told them the total, mostly carried by this game, they're like, oh, that's way more than we were expecting. And that's probably because I'm assuming that's what they paid for it. Probably way back in the day, if I had to assume. I'm pretty sure that's what they paid for it. That is not what I paid for it. I paid, let's just say, a 3-digit number for this. But totally worth it. Love Mega Man 7. I do actually go back and revisit this one from time to time, much more frequently than some other games in the franchise. Definitely a fantastic game. I recommend people to play it. I don't recommend you to spend this much money on it unless you're wanting to be like a hardcore Mega Man collector like I am, but you absolutely should play it. It's on the Legacy Collection, so go ahead and grab it. Of course, that's not it as far as Super Nintendo goes. Of course, I also have Mega Man X. This is up there with like some of the greatest games of all time. A lot of people, myself included, would consider this like required reading if you kind of want to experience like video game history type stuff. Not even just like for Mega Man. I think like just gaming in general, this is just straight up one of the best games ever made. A fantastic evolution on the classic series, moving it forward to the X series. Kind of got a darker, grittier story. The movement is fast-paced. The weapons are incredible. Just everything about this game is fantastic. They like pumped everything to 11, and it's amazing. Hot take, I'm a bit of a bigger fan of some of the later X games, which I know is an extremely hot take. I would not classify this one as my favorite, but objectively speaking, it's probably one of, if not the best Mega Man game ever made. Of course, the X series doesn't stop there. On Super Nintendo, I also have X2. This one with the manual, as you can see, this is actually how the store had it packaged. They put the cartridge and the manual in like this little protective bag, which I really appreciate. The previous owner definitely used this. The back cover of the manual is gone. They were using the notes section, which how often do you see that, right? I don't know. I grew up in like the Game Boy Advance, GameCube era, moving into the Wii. I did not see a ton of people use these notes. I don't know, maybe that was more common back on the Super Nintendo and the Genesis. But it's not every day you see people actually use these notes for something, so it's actually kind of cool. Love to see that kind of stuff. But yeah, X2, this is actually one of the more recent additions to my Mega Man collection. As far as the X games go, this is one of the last ones I was missing, actually. I'm still missing one. We'll get to that. I'm actually very upset that I'm missing this one, but we'll get to that. But yeah, X2, great game. It used, I believe they like have like this upgraded chip. They do. That's how they're able to do all the wireframe stuff in this game. So even back in the day, these cartridges ended up being a little bit more expensive than your standard Super Nintendo cartridge. But yeah, overall, a great game. Does a lot of the same stuff from Mega Man X. Admittedly, I think it's like they just kind of do the same thing. You know, they got these fancy new visuals thanks to the new chip in this game. But they don't really do anything like super crazy over the top. It's just like, yeah, you liked Mega Man X. Here's more Mega Man X, which is not a bad thing for the record. But yeah, it's just kind of there for me with X2. But overall, still a good game. And then the last Super Nintendo game I have to show is probably the big one. Probably the most out there thing I have in terms of cost is Mega Man X3 on Super Nintendo. Not only does this game run off of kind of the similar hardware from X2, which again made it more expensive just from an MSRP level back in the day, but it also, for some reason, this game also got like a shorter print run back in the day. They did not make as many copies of this game as they did of like X and X2 and really just any other game. I don't really know why that was, or why that is, but because of that, that is what leads this game to fetch really high prices online, is that I'm certain that the higher MSRP probably led to this game probably not selling as many copies as a Mega Man game would have back then. But also on top of that, the shorter print run means it's just harder to find in general, so if you're wanting to get Mega Man X3, this is probably going to be one of the most priciest Mega Man games that you can own. So if you're looking to play it, stick with the Legacy collections, but if you're a collector, you're ready to pay a pretty penny for this one. But overall, X3, it's fine. it kind of does the same thing as X2, where it's just like, hey, you liked Mega Man X, here's more Mega Man X. Except the second time in a row is kind of like it starts to a little bit. Of course, this game does change it up a little bit by being the first game where you can play as Zero, which is cool, for the record. Zero is very cool. I like Zero a lot. I think he's great. But I think that was poorly implemented in this game. If you ask me personally, it's a little too limiting for my liking. And some of the upgrades in this game aren't as fun as some other Mega Man games. But it is still Mega Man X, and I like Mega Man X, so there's not really much else to say about that. Now, some of you might be surprised to hear that I'm actually about to talk about the Sega Genesis next, knowing that Mega Man didn't really have any games on the Sega Genesis. It was very much a Nintendo-based franchise from Capcom back in the day. However, there was one Mega Man game available on Sega Genesis back in the day. Granted, in the United States, it was only available through the Sega channel. It was like some weird subscription service where you got to like download games, and maybe not download, but like you got to digitally access games without the cartridge using like some satellite technology type stuff. The game got a physical release, I want to say in Japan and Europe, I think, but not in the United States. Until randomly one day Retrobit and Capcom got together and said, hey, let's make a physical version of the game for Sega Genesis in the year, what even was this, man? It doesn't have it on here. This was fairly recently. I want to say it was like 2022, I think. It was the same year the Genesis Mini came out. And yeah, it is an official Sega Genesis cartridge for Mega Man The Wily Wars. It's a collector's edition. It comes with this cool case with like this, lenticular Mega Man thing going on here, which is really cool. It's got like the Genesis style case. It's got a bunch of like, it's like an art book and stuff like that. Came with some trading cards as well, which I should have got for this video. I don't actually know where they're at. If I find them, I'll put a picture of them in the video. But yeah, this is, technically speaking, the only official way to play Wily Wars on an NTSC Genesis today. It's the only way to do it. Now, I actually haven't opened this yet. This is still sealed. Sealed with this goofy little Mega Man sticker. I have not opened this yet. Not because I'm like wanting it to keep sealed or have its value or whatever, blah blah blah. I actually don't give a shit about that. I just hadn't got around to playing it yet, and I told myself, especially since I'm streaming now, and I want to use my live streams as a way to get through my backlog, this will be one of the first games I tackle after we're done with the Pokemon Ribbon Challenge. Or if I decide to take a break in the middle of the challenge, this will probably be one of the first games we play. Because while I have played Mega Man 1, 2, and 3, I have not played the Genesis versions. They were completely remade for the Wily Wars. And I also haven't played Wily Tower, and that's really the big reason why I want to get into this, is that Wily Tower is a whole new game with whole new bosses and levels, but the gimmick of Wily Tower is that before each level, you get to select a loadout from all weapons and all special techniques in Mega Man's 1, 2, and 3. So you can have like the Magnet Beam, you can have Rush Jet, you can have Magnet Missile, you can have Bubble Lead, or it's Bubble Lead, actually. You can mix and match, and then the bosses will have multiple weaknesses to account for the fact that you just have such a large arsenal of weapons. Really cool idea, and it's one of the few Mega Man games I haven't played yet, and one that I'm really looking forward to. These collector's editions of this are not easy to find anymore. That was like a limited run kind of thing. However, if you're wanting to play Mega Man The Wily Wars, fret not. That it is available on the Sega Genesis Mini, which came out around the same time as this, and to be honest, actually now that I think about it, I haven't seen any Sega Genesis Minis in the wild in a while, so I don't actually know how much those cost anymore. But it's probably a more affordable option than this, and at the end of the day, if you really want to play it, there is always emulation and bootlegs. Okay, with that little brief detour to the Genesis out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the Game Boy. Now, I don't have a ton of Game Boy games for the Mega Man series. In fact, actually, they notoriously get quite expensive the more they go along. So, like, Mega Man 1 on Game Boy, fairly cheap. Mega Man 2, a little more. It genuinely does, like, with each passing game, get more and more expensive. with Mega Man 5 on Game Boy, once again, kind of reaching the same levels as Mega Man X3 in terms of cost. So I don't have a ton of them, but I do have some I want to show you. So the first of which is Rockman World. So this is actually just Mega Man 1 on Game Boy, but the Japanese version. Obviously, hence Rockman World. Yeah, in Japan, the Game Boy games were called Rockman World, so they have Rockman World 1, World 2, World 3. It's the same thing as our Game Boy games, Mega Man 1 through 5. This one I haven't played yet, but, you know, it's on my list. I got a whole, like I said, I'm marathoning the series. I'm starting with, like, the mainline games, and then when I'm done with the mainline games, which I'm currently on Battle Network, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to try out some of the spin-offs and some of the side games that I haven't played. Rockman World being one of those. This was a gift from a buddy of mine, my friend Marshall. I used to do a podcast with him way back when. And I believe this was a Christmas gift, I want to say. It was either a Christmas or a birthday gift. So Marshall, dude, if you're watching, thank you. I appreciate it. This will get played on stream one of these days. The only other Mega Man Game Boy game I have is Mega Man 2. This one I actually have played. I remember, I think I just bought it. Yeah, I bought it at the game store that I was working at. Came in, we were selling it for 15 bucks. I was like, well, I'm going for that Mega Man collection, so I went and I bought it. And I really wasn't in a rush to play this one. Rush, see, get it? I wasn't really in a rush to play this one. This one has, like, it's like some combination of, like, Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 3 Robot Masters. And, you know, kind of level tropes and stuff like that. I wasn't really in a rush to play this one immediately, but I got the bright idea to bring my Game Boy SP to work and just play this game while I was on break. And I think I got like halfway through it. I don't believe the game has a save feature, but I think on my 30-minute break, I got like halfway through it, and I was having such a great time. I was loving the music. The music in this game is actually fantastic, even though it does need to be brought down an octave lower. Seriously, listen to this OST and you'll know exactly what I mean by that. But yeah, I was just loving it, so I was like, I have to play this. I have to beat this. And yeah, fantastic game. Absolutely fantastic game. Love this one. Okay, so we got the 4th generation of systems out of the way. We're now going to move on to the 5th generation. Now, at this point, this is where Mega Man kind of starts becoming more PlayStation adjacent. Mega Man did not have very many games on the Game Boy Color, nor on the Nintendo 64, but he did have one game on the Nintendo 64, and it's this one that's been kind of spoiled this entire video, Mega Man 64. This is a port of Mega Man Legends from the PlayStation 1 done for the Nintendo 64, and this came out super late in the system's life cycle. I believe the year 2000, yeah. So super late in the Nintendo 64's life cycle. I mean, you know, right on the cusp of the release of the GameCube. This game already didn't sell particularly well on PlayStation. And then you kind of like get to like the tail end of the Nintendo 64. People are looking forward to the GameCube. This game and its sequel are already out on PlayStation. You know, I can imagine this probably didn't sell very well. But regardless, it is Mega Man Legends, but on Nintendo 64. Now, granted, I have played Mega Man Legends, but I didn't play it this way. I played it digitally on my PlayStation 3. And Mega Man Legends is a fantastic game. Definitely was way ahead of its time, in more ways than I think people realize. I'm not familiar if the 64 port is any good, but to be honest, I think the next time I play Mega Man Legends, because I definitely will be playing it again, that game is so good. I think I'll probably experiment and see if this port is any good, or see if it feels any better. Because the common complaint people have about Mega Man Legends is that the control scheme is a little weird, and I'll level with them. I think that's a fair criticism of the game, even though I personally, you know, once you get used to it, it's actually not that bad, but that might just be me. So yeah, I'd be curious to see if the 64 version makes any improvements, but that'll have to be for another time. I haven't played it yet, and I've got other things on my plate at the moment. So yeah, Mega Man 64. At the very least, I am happy to have this as a fan of Mega Man Legends, but also it's nice to just again, this was a time where like most third parties were on Team PlayStation instead of Nintendo, just because of the differences in the hardware at the time. So it is kind of nice to have just that one little bit where Capcom's like, hey, let's go back to Nintendo for a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So, cool to have, especially complete in box. Okay, but now for the 5th generation system that everybody played on. We had the PlayStation, and the PlayStation is mostly dominated by Mega Man X, but of course is also the system where we had the Mega Man Legends games, but we also had a little bit of classic Mega Man action in Mega Man 8. This game was developed for the series' 10th anniversary as a follow-up to Mega Man 7. Not really too much to say about it. It really does kind of differ from like other classic, like it goes off the beaten path, right? It does things a little bit differently. It has a bit of a different setup. It's a little bit more unique as far as like its special weapons go. Not exactly a compliment. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's got good vibes, but ultimately it's just kind of there for me. Yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it, but still a good game. Like, I'm not saying that it's like a bad game by any means, but just one that didn't leave like a huge impression on me. It was just kind of okay. But the vibes are on point. You got the animated cutscenes, you got fantastic music. I like Mega Man 8 for the vibes, and sometimes that's enough. But like I said, PlayStation was really big for the Mega Man X series, and here I have 2 of the Mega Man X games, 2 of 3 that were released on PlayStation, Mega Man X5 and X6. Unfortunately, I don't have Mega Man X4, and that sucks. That sucks a lot, because X4 is arguably one of the best games in the series. And coincidentally, the only X game I'm missing. Spoiler warning. At least out of the main lines. Not too much to say about these. Much like every other game that I'm going to talk about, I've experienced these on the Legacy Collection first. X5 is okay. Like I said, very similar to Mega Man 8. It's got like a very different setup compared to other X games, where it's like, you know, you have all the Mavericks, but like you really should only go after some of them early on, and then something in the plot happens, and now suddenly the other guys are more relevant, and then it's the whole thing with the Eurasia Space Colony and the canon that has like a 34% chance of giving you the good ending. Yes, the good ending is RNG based, which is not great, but overall it's fine. You know, a decent game. I love its story. The story is actually really good, in my opinion. A little sloppy in some ways, but definitely very good. This is where you get that iconic X versus Zero fight, which admittedly kind of comes out of nowhere, but it is iconic nonetheless. X6. I own it just for the collection. I want a complete Mega Man collection, and unfortunately it means owning this piece of shit game. Do not play X6. Do not emulate it. Do not buy this. On the Legacy Collection, just skip it. This game sucks. That's all I'm gonna say. This game fucking sucks, dude. And last but not least, for the PlayStation, the only Legends game I have for the PlayStation currently, Mega Man Legends 2, actually my most recent acquisition for my Mega Man collection. Just recently got it from a store here in town who offered to hold it for me for a little while while I was waiting on my Christmas bonus. Yeah, Mega Man Legends 2, a follow-up to Mega Man Legends, of course, or Mega Man 64. Fantastic game. It kind of goes for a more bombastic approach. You know, Mega Man Legends was really interesting that you had Catalog's Island. Catalog's Island felt big, it felt lived in, it was like this whole new world. Mega Man Legends 2 says, okay, let's up the ante. You're not only on one island in this game, there's like 5, there's like 6 islands in this game. And admittedly, while on the surface that can make the game feel a little bit like bigger, a little bit larger than life, I do feel it kind of leaves those areas, those 5-6 areas that you have, a little bit more devoid of life than what you would see on Catalog's Island. Catalog's Island just felt so alive, just because they were focusing on that one island. But when you have so many different environments in a game, you kind of have to shrink down on those details a little bit, unfortunately. Not to say that that ruins this game by any means, because this game is still fantastic. You're still crawling around in dungeons, you're still shooting up things in a 3D space. You've got fun special weapons that you get to upgrade in a variety of ways and get different utility out of them. And, you know, there's like a treasure hunting aspect to this, where if you find like buster upgrades and different things that you can craft and all this wonderful stuff. The Legends games, just in general, Legends, Legends 2, and The Misadventures of Tron Bonne are just incredible games all around. I think personally I preferred the first game just a wee bit more, but this game is absolutely fantastic. Get my mans off the moon, okay? Now the last game I want to show you before we move on to what is in my opinion the greatest console of all time, I do want to show you the one Game Boy Color game that I do own for the Mega Man series. That is Mega Man Extreme 2. Now, Mega Man X doesn't have very many spin-offs. I think it's really just Extreme 1, Extreme 2, and then Command Mission. But, you know, this is one of them, essentially taking some elements from Mega Man X2 and X3, or is it X3 and X4? Whatever, some of those X games somewhere between 2 and 4, and just kind of putting it onto a Game Boy Color game. Now, it's got its own story, it's got its own setup, it's got its own deal. It's just kind of copying a lot of the bosses from the console games. Much like the Game Boy Mega Man games, I have not gotten around to this one yet. Like I said, when I'm done with all the mainline games, I'm going to come back around and wrap up on some of the spin-offs. I don't have Extreme 1. I only have this one, because actually I haven't even seen Extreme 1 at a store anywhere. Just managed to pick this one up because I happened to see it at a mom and pop shop here in town. But yeah, this is one that I'm looking forward to because I do love some Game Boy. I'm not sure, like, I know platformers on the Game Boy aren't exactly like the greatest all the time, but surely this has got to be good, right? So I'm excited to try this one out. Now, while I claim this to be the greatest console of all time, Mega Man does not exactly have a great showing on it. And this is kind of when we start getting into a little bit of a decline for some of the Mega Man series. Now, we have some side series that are going super strong on the Game Boy Advance at this point, but as far as console Mega Man games go, not so much. But we have the Nintendo GameCube, the greatest system of all time. And we've got a couple games for it. We got a couple collections. They got the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, which has Mega Man 1 through 8, all available for you to play right here, and of course the Mega Man X collection, which has, let's see, it's Mega Man X through Mega Man X6, as well as a few like Japanese exclusive games. Does this have Battle and Chase? This does have Battle and Chase on it. That's so weird. Battle and Chase, for those that don't know, is just a kart racing Mega Man game that was only released in Japan on the PlayStation. Weird that they ported it for this collection specifically. I feel like maybe it would have been more appropriate over here, but whatever the case may be. Yeah, I mean, good collections, not my preferred way to play the series. This is definitely, for the classic series, this is one of the more affordable ways to play it, because as far as I know, this game is actually still relatively cheap on GameCube, and of course it's also available on PlayStation 2, and I think it's even on Xbox, so I could be wrong about that. X Collection, on the other hand, a little bit pricier, a little bit harder to find, especially on GameCube. But has all the X games. Again, not my preferred way to play any of these, to be honest. I think you're much better off with the Legacy collections on modern platforms. I think they're just way better all around. But one unique thing about the Mega Man X collection, I have to say though, is that these aren't like, there is no emulation or anything like that. Like, these are straight up ports. These are genuinely ports. They like remade the games for GameCube, which is hilarious. I believe for that reason, speedrunning Mega Man X via this collection is actually banned because it's faster. Because it's not being emulated, it's not using Super Nintendo hardware, it is using GameCube hardware, which kind of gets rid of some of the slowdown stuff that the Super Nintendo would sometimes have. So if I remember correctly, and you know, maybe things have changed since last I looked, but yeah, speedrunning Mega Man X on this collection is actually banned. Which I find hilarious, to be perfectly honest, but yeah, can't go wrong with any collections. Again, like I said, if you want collections, you're better off getting the Legacy collections, but these are still fine alternatives if for whatever reason you want to play them on a GameCube or PlayStation 2. And the only other GameCube game I have is Mega Man Battle Network, or I'm sorry, Mega Man Network Transmission. Doesn't have the Battle Network moniker on it. This was sort of a pseudo sequel to the first game. or to the first Battle Network game as a 15th anniversary title for the series. They kind of tried to combine elements of classic Mega Man into Battle Network. I haven't played it myself, but I have not heard very good things about this game, and I'm gonna consider this in spin-off territory. So I'm gonna skip this one on my Battle Network marathon. But at some point, I'm gonna come around to this one because this is actually a GameCube exclusive. You cannot get this on PlayStation 2 or Xbox like you can like some of these collections. This is the only GameCube exclusive Mega Man game from the 6th generation. Which is interesting, to say the very least. But like I said, I haven't heard very many good things about this one. Picked it up at a game store when I was visiting a friend up in Kentucky. Again, needed it for that Mega Man collection. And yeah, this is one I'm not in a rush to play, but at some point, I'll get it under my belt. Now, of course, Mega Man X, and just Mega Man in general, was quite active on other platforms at this time, namely the PlayStation 2. And that's where we have these bad boys: Mega Man X Command Mission, Mega Man X, Mega Man X7, and Mega Man X8. Command Mission is actually one of the first Mega Man games I put in my collection. Back when I bought this, I actually wasn't as in love with the series as I was after I played Mega Man 11. I think I just kind of picked it up because I saw it. I was like, okay, well, I'm not crazy about Mega Man, but I do think the character designs are cool. I've heard good things about this game. It's an RPG. I was like, okay, I'll pick it up, get it for the collection. My PS2 collection was rather slim at the time, so I was like, okay, this seems like it would be a good addition to my collection. Haven't played through this one yet. Again, I put this one in spin-off territory. So that means I'm kind of wanting to get through Battle Network and Star Force before I touch things like this. But at some point, I'm going to get around to this one. I am pretty excited. Like I said, I love Mega Man X. I love RPGs. Pretty good deal there. As for these guys, Mega Man X7 and Mega Man X8, once again, these are games that I played on the Legacy Collection as I was going through college. Basically like I did for the Classic and the X Series, just across the board. I played them all on the Legacy Collections, experienced them that way. Not for nothing, man. Mega Man X8, I know this is a hot take. This is my favorite game in the X Series. I know that's an extremely hot take for a lot of Mega Man fans, but I don't know, man. There's just something about this game that I like so much. I think the story is actually pretty cool. I like it for Mega Man X standards. There's definitely better, but definitely like the story. I like how they differentiated Axel and X. So in this game, they were kind of the same character. They used the same special weapons. The only difference is that X had a charge shot and Axel was rapid fire. They actually differentiated the two in this game. So, as per usual stuff, X gets his special weapon, Zero gets new techniques for his Z-Saber. And Axel, they differentiate him by just allowing him to just get, different style of weapons from each of the bosses. So, whereas X is still going to be firing, different projectiles out of his arm cannon. Axel, he's got his twin shooters, but he gets, a flamethrower, he gets, a grenade launcher, a Gatling gun. And it makes Axel my favorite character to play in this game, I'm not gonna lie. Which is cool for me, because I actually kind of like the character. I know a lot of people don't. I don't care. I do. Infinitely replayable. There's just I don't think I've played as many games over and over again as I have this one. I have played this game 5 times, and I almost got to the point where I'm almost speedrunning this game, because if I decided hey, I want to play Mega Man X8, I'll turn it on and in an hour I'm done. I absolutely love this game so much. I think it's very underrated in the Mega Man series, and easily one of the best in the X series. X7, on the other hand, I'm not as harsh on this game as many other people are in the Mega Man zeitgeist. Some people will even go as far to say that this is worse than X6. In my opinion, that's crazy. X6 is just awful. It's offensive how bad Mega Man X6 is. But this game, yeah, this game's bad, but it's not that, it's not offensive bad. It's just not good, And even then, I find more redeeming qualities from this game than I do X6, to be perfectly honest with you. It's more fun. To be honest, I had more fun playing this than X6. They're both bad, don't get me wrong, but X6 is bad in a broken and just unfun way. To where I'm breaking X6 as often as I can just to get through it faster. This game, it's slower. It's very slow for a Mega Man X game. But at the very least, some of the level tropes are interesting. You have dynamic camera angles, you have these weird 3D sections, which admittedly I don't think work very well, but they are at least interesting to look at. And the game at least functions on a programming level, and just doesn't have like all this weird shit that it tells you that isn't actually true like X6 does. So I think for that alone, like, to be perfectly honest, X7 is fine. Like, it's bad. It's certainly one of the worst in the series, but it's fine, okay? Leave it alone. Like I mentioned before, Mega Man was extremely popular, or at least extremely active, on the Game Boy Advance during this time. Now, I don't think a lot of the console Mega Man titles during this generation really hit very well, except for X8. That game is fantastic. Not a lot of people liked it at the time, though. But the Game Boy Advance games is, I think, really where Mega Man found its stride in this generation, for kind of, unfortunately, nosediving into obscurity in the next generation. But to start, we have Mega Man in Bass, a Game Boy Advance re-release of the formerly Japanese Super Nintendo exclusive of the same name. At least over there, it's Rockman and Forte. Yeah, they made Rockman and Forte for Super Famicom back in the day. Even though, like, the PlayStation and the N64 were out, like, that game came out after Mega Man 8, which is super weird. Super weird to think about, but, you know, they were talking about, oh, we want to make a Mega Man game for the console that most people are likely to own, and that's the Super Famicom. It's like, okay, weird timing, but sure, makes sense. We never got that game until it got re-released. I believe this is for the 15th anniversary, I want to say. It got re-released on the Game Boy Advance. And this is another one that I haven't gotten around to yet. I have a friend that swears by this game, but I've seen this game. This game does not look very fun. It looks like, you know, Mega Man to me is very fair. Like, it's a difficult series as far as platforming goes, but it's very fair. This game does not look fair difficult. It looks like bullshit difficult. So I'm not exactly looking forward to getting to play this one. But at some point, I am going to have to knock this one off the list, so we'll see what I think then. But the series that y'all are probably more familiar with, or, well, we'll get to that one in a second. Real quick, let's talk about Mega Man Zero. I only have 03 and 04. I don't have 01 and 02. But luckily for you, again, if you want to play these are available on their own Legacy collection on modern platforms. Highly recommend that collection. It's a great collection, by the way. But yeah, I've got Mega Man 03 and 04 here on Game Boy Advance. I picked these up after playing them on the Legacy collection because they left that much of an impression on me. And again, you know, there's the whole Mega Man collection thing. 03 is a fantastic game. Arguably, probably the best in the Zero series. Part of me wants to say that 2 might be a little bit better, but at the same time, like, 3 is just so good. It really takes the darker tone. The Zero series as a whole really takes that darker tone from the X series and just, like, X already turned it up to 11. This is turning it up to like 12. It really does kind of put a nice closure on kind of some of the storylines that the X series kind of started. This story, like, for Mega Man, it goes places, man. And 03 just absolutely beautiful. Like, just the way it tells its story, the narrative behind it all, and kind of some of those more subtler details of it. I think a lot of people underrate that so much about the Mega Man series, and I think the Zero series just in general does a very good job of highlighting some of the more somber themes of the Mega Man franchise. So I love these games a lot. 03 is definitely a lot better than 04. I'm not like a huge 04 hater, but it definitely was not as good as like 2 and 3 in my opinion. But still a great game, and the only one where I can get all the EX skills in because it isn't determined by your rank in this game. Which, you know, call me a scrub, I guess, but it's much easier if you ask me personally. Okay, but for real this time, the series that many people are probably more familiar with when it comes to Mega Man on the GBA, you can see I've got a ton of games here, is the Battle Network series. I'm not going to be able to get all these in one shot. I was going to try to get all these in one shot, but I don't think that's going to work, so I'll flash them on screen here. I've got Mega Man Battle Network, Mega Man Battle Network 2, Mega Man Battle Network 3, blue and white versions, because at Mega Man Battle 3 they pulled a Pokemon and they started doing multiple versions, except they started, from what I understand, they started like getting really weird with like the content that's exclusive in one and the other. I don't know yet, haven't gotten to these games yet. I'm currently playing through Battle Network 1 on the Legacy Collection. Leave me be, I'll get to the rest when I get there. I've got Mega Man Battle Network 5, Team Colonel, Battle Network 6, Psybeast Falzar, and I have Mega Man Battle Chip Challenge, which supposedly is like a spin-off that's like a tournament arc kind of thing, where it's just a bunch of tournament battles with LAN and the other net battlers. This one definitely treads spin-off territory, so not getting into this one anytime soon, but and yeah, I'll flash a picture of all the cartridges so you can see them a little bit cleaner, because I cannot have them all on the camera at the same time. But yeah, Battle Network is really what carried Mega Man through the Game Boy Advance. Of course, Mega Man Zero was fantastic, and they definitely did well for the time, but Mega Man Battle Network went crazy on the Game Boy Advance. Like I said, you had 6 games. You had 6 games, not counting Battle Chip Challenge, so if you want to count that, that's 7 games. And again, starting with Battle Network 3, they started splitting off into different games, like very similarly to how Pokemon does. So you had certain forms and techniques that were available in one version, but not in the other. They started that with Mega Man Battle Network 3, they continued that in 4, 5, and then 6. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe Mega Man Battle Network 6 got like a DS port was like a definitive edition with like all of the content from both versions. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong about that, but anyway. I wish I had more to say about these games, but the fact of the matter is, I have only just begun to play them. Like I said, I'm playing through Battle Network 1 on the Legacy Collection right now, and so far I'm having a great time. I think it's a great game, which is a good thing, because I've heard that Battle Network 1 is kind of like archaic in a way, that it's like not, that people consider it to be the worst of the Battle Network series. So the fact that I'm enjoying what many people consider to be the low point of the Battle Network series is nothing but a good thing. It means I have nothing but good stuff to look forward to. And of course, Mega Man Battle Network 6 actually does, there is actually a competitive scene for that game. There are dedicated Mega Man Battle Network players that still play Battle Network 6 competitively, like they do tournaments for the game. And admittedly, I'll have to be 100% honest here. Well, I am interested in Battle Network on the surface, just for being Mega Man games, and I want to play through them to continue, like, getting that story. There is a part of me that wants to get through the Battle Network series, purely so I can get in on the action for Mega Man Battle Network 6. I'm a competitive guy, I went to trading card game tournaments for Pokemon, and I've gone to fighting game tournaments, and it kind of meshes those two elements into its own thing. Sounds like it'd be right up my alley. Now, despite the fact that we're getting to the 7th generation of consoles now, you would probably think that we still have a bit more to go, but remember, the 7th generation of consoles was kind of a dark age for Mega Man. It was around this time where the series had just kind of took a nosedive. Sales were looking bad for the series, kind of across the board. At this point, I believe Star Force and ZX was kind of like the last-ditch effort to kind of breathe new life into the series and maybe revive it, which unfortunately didn't work. And of course, there's a whole bunch of cancellations around this time with things like Mega Man Online, Mega Man Crossover, which I think was mobile. There's like another Mega Man game that I'm trying to think of that I can't remember the name of, but a point is, there were a ton of canceled titles around this time. So yeah, kind of an awkward time for the Mega Man franchise, for the Blue Bomber, unfortunately. Oh, there was also that Mega Man X first-person shooter that they were going to make. Super weird stuff. Don't mind the light flickering, by the way. I guess there's a storm happening and one of my light bulbs in there is not exactly at full strength. Just bear with me. But that being said, we do have a few games for the Nintendo DS that did come out around this time that I have in my collection. The first of which is going to be the Mega Man Zero collection. Yeah, the Zero ZX Legacy collection is not the only collection that has the Mega Man Zero games. In fact, actually, I was so excited to start playing Mega Man Zero after I beat all the X games on the X Legacy Collection that I went and I bought this so I could start playing the Zero games this way. So awkwardly, on my version of the Zero ZX Legacy Collection, I've beaten every game on that collection except for Zero 1 because I beat it on this collection. And while I haven't played the other games on this collection, like I said, I did play the first game. It's a pretty good port. Everything's pretty good. So if you're wanting to play Mega Man Zero on the go, don't own a Switch or don't own a Steam Deck or don't have any way to play it on the Zero ZX Legacy Collection, at the very least you have a good option here. DS games have unfortunately been getting really expensive lately. I don't know if that really applies to this one, but you know, it might be a little bit more expensive than what I paid for it back in the day. But yeah, great collection, great games, absolutely recommend this. And then as well, I have the brand new Mega Man series that debuted on this system, the Mega Man ZX series. I've got Mega Man ZX and ZX Advent. These games are fantastic. So they take the platforming style of Mega Man games, specifically Mega Man Zero, and put it into a Metroidvania type game. The games are open world in that Metroid type way. You can explore and find different upgrades, and of course the story is going to have you going up and down and all around to, you know, finish the game. Definitely very underrated games in my opinion. I look back on these quite fondly. Again, I played these on the Zero ZX Legacy Collection, but I sought out physical copies as soon as I could because I just enjoyed them that much. ZX is great. I think for a Metroidvania, the map system absolutely blows, which honestly, when was this? Honestly, in 2004, come on. After we had Symphony of the Night, after we had Super Metroid, after we had Metroid Fusion, Zero Mission, and a whole host of other Castlevania games on GBA, all with great map systems. This game comes out in 2004 for the Nintendo DS, and the map system sucks. I don't know, there's no excuse for that in 2004 for a Metroidvania, in my opinion. But that's about the only downside I have for Mega Man ZX, otherwise I think it's a fantastic game. Personally, I think ZX Advent just slightly is the better of the two. And my copy is sealed here. I don't actually even know where I got that. I think this was a gift, I think. You maybe can't see it very well, but it does have some cellophane on it. I don't know if it's the original seal or if the seller resealed it. I genuinely, honest to God, I can't tell. As far as I can tell, I mean, it looks legit, but, you know, at some point I'm going to open this thing up and play it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, yeah, ZX Advent is super awesome. Instead of you getting, special weapons and abilities from the bosses, you just get to flat out transform into the bosses and use their abilities as they would, which is super cool. It's super unique. It's kind of, you know, you could argue it's kind of the same thing as just getting their special weapon like you did in the Classic and the X series and stuff like that. You could make that argument, I suppose. But, I don't know, there's something about actually transforming into a giant robotic fish to stop time. You know what I'm saying? They could have just given you a time stop power, but no, you're going to transform into this giant robotic fish that gives you better underwater movement, makes you immune to spikes, at least on your head and on your feet, and your special attack is that you get to stop time. Honestly, way more fun. So, definitely a big fan of these games. If you love Metroidvanias and you love Mega Man, definitely pick these up or get the Mega Man Zero ZX Legacy Collection, play them that way. Grab these games. They're absolutely fantastic. And the only other game I have for my Nintendo DS is one that I really don't have a whole lot to say. That's Mega Man Star Force Leo. And the reason I don't have too much to say about it is because I have never played a Mega Man Star Force game. I remember I rented, I think, the first game via GameFly, way back in the day. I'm not really sure why I felt like I wanted to do that. I think maybe I just thought the name Mega Man Star Force was cool, I guess. I don't know. But despite the fact that I rented it from GameFly, I popped it in my DS, looked at the existing save file from the previous owner, said, I have absolutely no idea what's going on here, and then I never played it. So I have next to no experience with the Mega Man Star Force games. Of course, that will change once I'm done marathoning Battle Network, because this is exactly what I'm going to do after I'm done with the Battle Network series, but I'm just one guy, one step at a time. Okay, so for this next part, we're going to speed through these pretty quickly because at this point, we're really just looking at collections. So I have the Mega Man Zero ZX Legacy Collection on PlayStation 4. This comes with Mega Man Zero 1, 2, 3, 4, Mega Man ZX, and Mega Man ZX Advent. Every single one of these games are fantastic. There's always been some level of, like, with the Legacy Collections, there's always some level of, like, some of the games are good, some of the games are not good, type thing. This collection, all 6 games are good. Zero is really hard. Zero 1 is extremely tough. Don't get me wrong. And Zero 4 is kind of eh. But, like, I would still consider them great games and ones that I would happily replay if I absolutely had to. So this is an absolutely amazing collection. I would recommend getting it on the Switch just for the portability, but I played it on PlayStation 4 and I loved every second of it. So, fantastic collection. Speaking of collections, I have a whole host of collections on the Xbox One. We've got Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2 and the Mega Man X Legacy Collections 1 and 2. I really hate that Capcom, like, split the collection. Like, why? Like, why? You know, why do this? Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 comes with Mega Man 1 through 6, so all the NES games. And if you want the other 4 games, Mega Man 7, 8, 9, and 10, you had to get the second one. So you had to make 2 purchases to get all games. And that, look, that blows. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this because Capcom has since learned the error of their ways, thank God. But, come on, man. Anyway, yeah, these are probably the best way to play the classic Mega Man games. It's available on Xbox One, it's available on PlayStation 4, I think. Yes, it is on PlayStation 4. It's on Nintendo Switch. Personally, I prefer it on Nintendo Switch, but I do need these for my Mega Man collection, so there we go. And of course, you also have the Mega Man X Legacy Collection. It does come with 1 and 2, but, like, the problem with this is that if you buy this physically, Mega Man X Collection 1 is physical on the disc. Legacy Collection 2 is a download code. So if you buy this physically, expecting to get both, be careful, because it's possible that the previous owner used that download code, and you're kind of screwed. So, really meaning the only ones that you get physically are Mega Man X 1, 2, 3, and 4. Which, granted, is the better half of the package, if you ask me personally, collectively speaking. Because X1, X4 are fantastic games, X2 and 3 are pretty good. And then X Collection Volume 2 has X5 and X8, which are great games, and X6 and X7, which are terrible games. So, if you're looking to get this physical, and this unfortunately goes for PlayStation 4 and Switch as well, be mindful that you might not get the second collection because it's a download code and the previous owner probably already used it. That being said, you can buy the second collection digitally, but the fact that there is no way to access the content on Legacy Collection 2 physically kind of blows. But again, not going to spend too much time harping on that because Capcom did eventually fix that with some of the later collections. Lastly, for Xbox One, I do have Mega Man 11, and we are just going to jump ahead a little bit here. I also have Mega Man 11 on Switch. Excuse the fact that the game is kind of floating around awkwardly in there. It's part of the Amiibo collection, or the Amiibo edition. Sorry, I'm going to put this away because this is way more interesting. It's part of the Amiibo edition, which comes with a special Amiibo figure, which I have right over here. Now, sorry to any Amiibo collectors, but I like Amiibos, like, out of the box. I prefer to be an out-of-the-box Amiibo collector. So I took him out of the box, and now he doesn't really fit in here without the game kind of slapping around in the box. But anyway, yeah, Mega Man 11, absolutely fantastic game. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Mega Man 11 is the reason I became the massive Mega Man fan I am today. And I know that makes me more of a recent fan. Some people have a weird stigma about that, okay? Get over it. Mega Man 11, like I said, I don't know what it is about this game that just resonated with me so much when I played it back in 2018, but I absolutely loved every second of this game. Certainly one of the best in the classic series. I think 7 edges it out just a little bit in my opinion, but if you had to ask me what number 2 is, it's this one. What else can I say? Go play it. It is on modern platforms, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Steam, Mega Man 11, Switch. You can get this one for pretty cheap. The Amiibo edition is probably going to run you a pretty penny these days, as you know, obviously limited run because of this guy. But yeah, super cool. Super glad to have this because honestly, Mega Man 11's redesign of Mega Man honestly might be one of the best for the classic Blue Bomber in my opinion, if not the best. Fantastic stuff all around. Now there is one game I did skip over, just kind of talking about Mega Man 11 because I was so eager to talk about it. I do have the Legacy Collection on a 3DS. Now originally, this was the only Legacy Collection, right? Like back when they did this for whenever it was they did this. I want to say 2015. Back when they released this in 2015, they did not have this on Xbox One or PlayStation 4, you see. Same box art, right? But this came way later, right? This didn't come out exactly at the same time, but it originally was 3DS only, if I remember correctly. And there was a special edition of this that came with, I want to say, a gold Mega Man amiibo, which I unfortunately don't have. But yeah, this was the original Legacy Collection. Again, just like the Xbox One that I just showed, comes with Mega Mans 1 through 6, all available on Nintendo 3DS. Honestly, not a bad way to play them either. I enjoy being able to play games like this portably. The best thing, one of my favorite things about Mega Man games is that they're really short. And that's part of why I fell in love with the series, because I was really the only games I could play with as limited time as I had back in college. So I really appreciate these games being short, so having them on a portable platform like the Nintendo Switch or the 3DS, which by the way, I have it on Switch as well. Having them on portable platforms just so you can quickly get through them on the go whenever you want, wherever's most comfortable for you. Fantastic stuff. So these are kind of, you know what, forget this. To be honest, this is how I recommend playing classic Mega Man games right here. Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2 on Nintendo Switch. Get the portability aspect. You get all games, right? Legacy Collection 2 never released on 3DS, so you do get all the games. And you get it portably. You get to play on Switch. You get to be super cozy. Unfortunately, this is still very early on. Legacy Collection 2 is download code only. So again, if you're going physical like I do, be wary of that. But again, they are also available digitally on the eShop as well, so you're not exactly missing out if you get this physically, or if you get this physically and then just have to download this one on the eShop, you're still not missing out. And yeah, last but not least, as far as the games go, more collections! I got the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection and the X Legacy Collection, also on Switch. Again, these are, all three of these collections is how I played most of these games. You'll notice I only had the 0ZX Legacy Collection on PS4. I meant to get it on Switch and accidentally pre-ordered it for the wrong system. Didn't matter, I wanted it for my collection anyway, but I do have to get 0ZX on Switch at some point, so I have all the collections on Switch, because that's where I prefer to play these games, but regardless, again, these are the best ways to play any Mega Man game, so if you're interested in classic Mega Man and Mega Man X and Mega Man Battle Network and Mega Man 0ZX, if you're interested in those series in any way, shape, or form, I highly recommend getting them on Switch. I think that's just, personally, for my money, the best way to play these games. And yeah, like I said, I'm currently playing through the Battle Network series via this collection right now. I'm on the first game. I think I'm about halfway through it, I think. Like I said, having a great time and would highly recommend this kind of stuff. Now that's all the video games I have from the collection, but I figured it would be fun if I took some time to show off a few miscellaneous collectibles, we'll call them. So I think the most obvious one, of course, is going to be my Mega Man amiibo from the Smash series. Of course, every Smash Brothers fighter got their own amiibo, Mega Man, of course, being no exception. You know, I definitely prefer the Mega Man 11 amiibo, personally, but this one's still nice. This is based off of his render from Smash 4, which low-key, you know, back in the day I liked a lot, but after Smash Ultimate and their renders and their character artwork is so much better in Smash Ultimate that I really wish they had waited on something like this. But I understand Amiibo wouldn't have been as successful today, because they were definitely a more popular kind of... The Toys to Life thing was definitely more popular when the Wii U was still the console to have, quote. But yeah, still nice to have this. I've also got a few figures here, as well as this Mega Man Mega Mix kind of manga Udon does a lot of stuff for Capcom. They do like Street Fighter, Darkstalkers, Mega Man. They can do like comic books, manga, all that kind of good stuff. I got this at a half-price books up in Kentucky. I've heard a lot of good things about the Mega Man mangas and all this kind of stuff. Perfectly honest, I have not read this yet. I'll get to it one of these days. Of course, I got a couple figures here. I have this Zero figure. It's kind of, I don't know, he's just kind of standing there. You kind of get like this whole stacking thing you can do with X if you have X. Only have Zero. This was another gift from my buddy Marshall. You know, he knows I'm a big Mega Man fan, so it makes it pretty easy to get me gifts when, you know, you have figures like this around. So very cool. I think I might get like a new PC and have this guy just chilling on inside if I get like a tempered glass side. I think about doing that, to be perfectly honest. And this figure, I don't really know what to call this, but as you can tell by the box, it's kind of pretty... Oh, sorry, there it is. D-Arts. Yeah, this is a D-Arts Mega Man X figure. I just picked this up randomly at a local mom and pop shop, which unfortunately we don't have anymore. They went out of business. Yeah, this was back when I was marathoning the Mega Man X games. Super into the series. Mega Man X to this day is probably my favorite video game character of all time at this point. So, you know, this mom and pop shop, they had this figure on the shelf for forever, man. Every time I went in there, I always saw it. And originally, when I saw it the first time, it was $40. They downpriced it to $30. That's when I bought it. But as I was marathoning through the Mega Man X games, I was like, man, this guy X, this is so cool. I love these games. My friends were collecting figures like this. I was like, okay, I'll get this one. So I bought it. I think I had it set up on my desk at one of my old apartments for a while. But then when we moved, I packaged him back up. By the way, check out this artwork on the back. It's like the figure in action, like all the different stuff. Super cool. I absolutely love this. What's interesting about this figure and why I decided to show it off specifically and spend so long talking about it is that if you go through the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, if you go through the gallery of all the different merchandise they have for Mega Man X, you'll actually find this picture documented in that gallery. I'll put some footage here on screen. You can see this is the same figure from the gallery, which I thought was so cool. I didn't know that when I bought this, right? I bought this as like, oh, it's Mega Man X and Mega Man X is cool. So after I beat all the games, I went through the gallery one more time and I saw this and I was like, hey, wait a minute. I was like, I have that. It's like the meme of the guy with the drink in his hand standing up from the chair pointing. It's exactly like that. So I don't know. I don't think it's particularly rare. I don't think. And if it is, I guess I got it for a good price. But yeah, I thought just for that reason alone, it was worth showing this off. Now, one final thing to send off the video, and probably one of my favorite things, I have to be perfectly honest. This is a Christmas gift I got a couple years ago from my wonderful fiance, and I'm happy to show this off to end off the video. Yes, it is a prop Mega Man Buster. It's got a trigger on the inside, it makes sounds. Come on, man, that's so cool. I think back when these sold, I think if you got this brand new, I think it also came with a helmet. I think, I'm not sure if that was sold separately or not, but all I have is the Buster. I don't care. This is fucking cool, dude. I'm shooting the lemons, bro. I'm shooting the lemons out here, man. It makes noises when you turn it on and off. Let me see if I can get the switch. Yeah, so when you turn it off, it's the death sound effect. It does that little ba-ding when you turn it on. I love this. You can absolutely... I think my fiance sometimes regrets getting me this because every now and again I'll just get bored, turn it on, and just start rapid firing the trigger, making all the noise. I don't think my cat likes it very much either, but I don't care. This thing is awesome, and I love it. So there we go. That is all of my Mega Man collection as of December 28th, 2024. Like I said, I do want a complete Mega Man collection as far as video games go, and that is still something that I aspire to complete, so I'm sure at some point later on down the line, I'll have more to show y'all, but for now, that's where I'm at, and I hope you enjoyed me getting to go on and talk about all these different games and things that I own and some of the stories I have with them and some of my general thoughts of the games as well. I would love to hear what you all think about the Mega Man series or any specific Mega Man games or collectibles that you have down in the comments below. As for these collection style videos, I actually do plan on doing these monthly, and as you can see by the shelf behind me, that's only a fraction of my collection, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. So if you have any other things from my collection that you want to see, maybe specific systems or other franchises, I mean, you can see all the Pokemon stuff on top. I'll definitely have to make a Pokemon video at some point. If there's any of that kind of stuff that you're interested in, definitely let me know in the comments down below, as again, I do kind of want to make this a monthly series of just showing you all everything in my collection. But with that being said, that's going to do it for me here. Thanks for joining me on this video. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.